In this final video, I'll be showing you how the salmon get released. But let's go back to that live stream that you watched over the winter. You're probably wondering what happened to those salmon. So come on, let's find out. To remove the salmon from the tank, I drained out the first top bit of the tank water, netted out the salmon and put them in a cooler to transport them back to the hatchery, and then removed the rest of the water. I did put this on a time lapse though, because it took us quite a bit of time. Once we got back to the hatchery, I took the cooler and dumped it into our rearing pond so that the 300 salmon from the tank could join our 80,000. They're a little bit light as they come out of that white cooler, so see if you can spot them. I'm going to show you two different releases today. One of them is going to be a bucket release, and the other one will be using our full release trailer. So let's do the bucket release first, and that one will be into Willow Creek. So here we are back at Willow Creek, and as you can see, this stream is really narrow and shallow. It does have good water quality, as you can see by the clear water, but it's not deep enough for us to release these fish in big quantities, so we're going to use the bucket release for this creek. I want you to know the salmon will remain in the stream for about a year, and then they will head down to the estuary and out to the ocean. Because remember, these fish are anadromous fish, which means that they can live in both fresh and salt water. I'm sure you're curious at this point what our salmon look like. So here's a look inside the bucket before we release. It's now finally time for us to release our coho salmon. I'm going to put the bucket as close to the stream as possible so the salmon can swim out on their own. Is much deeper and wider than Willow Creek, so we're able to release more fish at a time, so we're able to use our release trailer and hoses. Here's a picture of that release trailer. You can see that there's a couple important components to it, one of those being the white tank. That part of it is where we store all of the fish and all the water that they need. The other important part is that blue oxygen tank. Salmon need consistent dissolved oxygen for them to be able to survive. So in a closed system like a tank, they're going to need added oxygen. So we have the oxygen tank running as we're transporting the fish from the hatchery to North Creek. It takes a lot of help to get the salmon from the rearing pond to the release trailer. So this picture here is the Olympic fly fishers of Edmonds, and they helped us on our last release to North Creek. That net that they're holding is what we used to drag across the rearing pond to get all of the salmon to a place where we can net them out with a separate net to get them into the release trailer. Once the salmon have been netted to the side of the rearing pond, we use a separate net to scoop out the salmon and then take them over to get weighed. We're only allowed to release a certain amount of fish to each creek, so this scale helps us keep track of how many fish are going to North Creek. Once the net is weighed, it's then hoisted up to the release trailer where the salmon are dumped into a full tank of water with dissolved oxygen flowing so that they'll make it safely on their drive. Here's a look inside that release trailer. You can see the oxygen bubbles flowing and some of the coho swimming around. Once we arrive to the release site, we add a hose to the trailer to get the fish from inside the trailer out into North Creek. They're going to come out at a pretty fast rate, so I'm going to point the hose up towards the sky a little bit so that the pressure isn't as much as they're entering the creek. I'm now going to show you what it looks like when the salmon come out of the hose, both above water and some underwater footage. I hope you enjoy!